devil inside. Every single one of us has the devil inside. Little advice from the band In Excess. Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and locally on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. You know, this is why we have a constitution right here. This is why you need to watch the people you elect to represent you. Every single one of them has the devil inside. Every single one of them is capable of self-dealing and not living up to the standards they should. Our founders knew that, but somewhere along the way, the population of our country has forgotten it or ignored it. Either way, the results are the same, an out-of-control government. We're seeing the effects of that right now. A government that's increasingly demanding more and more money from the citizens of this country. It's like a huge growing monster feeding on money, and as it gets bigger, it requires more and more of it. That's the difference between you and the government. You survive on food and water. The government survives on money. If we run out of money, no more government. But you'll still survive because you live outside the matrix. You don't require something as amorphous as currency to support your life. But getting back to the first segment where I mentioned the government shutdown. I know, right? You haven't heard anything about it all week. But talking about the shutdown, the first segment, brought some ideas to my mind during the break. This shutdown is all about politics. There's two factors involved here on both sides. Number one, it's all about making the other side look bad. If you're a Democrat, it's about making the Republicans look bad. If you're a Republican, it's about making the Democrats look bad. And two, you're demonstrating to your political base that you'll stand up to the other side. If you're conservative, you'll stand up to the liberals and vice versa. You may say, no, Patrick, you have that all wrong. Just look at how Ted Cruz and all these other Tea Party people, they're standing up for us, the American people. No, they're not. Listen when I tell you, it's all about politics. These people in Washington have heard everyone complaining out here, and it scared them. Look at how Ted Cruz was stating that the first House defunding bill wouldn't make it through the Senate. I covered it on this show a few weeks ago. All of the House members went ballistic, accusing him of pushing them to pass something, but then wasn't going to fight to get it through the Senate. And when his phone and email started blowing up with angry people, all of a sudden he saw the light. But Patrick, they're still standing up and fighting. These congressmen are welcoming veterans at the World War II memorial. They're fighting against Obamacare. Listen what I'm telling you. It's all politics. This is why you listen to this radio show. This is why this show is on the fast track to becoming one of the most influential shows on talk radio. Because I don't get blinded by all the glitter and all the pomp and circumstance. I see through all of this, and by listening to this show, you will too. Back to my point, though. How can you tell this is all showmanship? How can you tell for the Republicans the Obamacare fight is all about giving President Obama and the Democrats a black eye? That on the Democrat side, it's all about shoring up their base. It's very, very simple, and it's easily overlooked. Just notice what the House is passing. On Friday, the House passed a bill to continue funding of FEMA. Not constitutional. FEMA is not provided for under the Constitution of the United States. Also on Friday, the House passed bills restoring funding for the Women, Infants, and Children food nutrition programs. Also not constitutional. The taking of money from one American citizen to pay the bills of another is not provided for in the Constitution. The House passed a bill to keep the parks and monuments open. Not constitutional. All of these, except those that are inside the District of Columbia, they're all located within states. Let the states fund the parks and monuments located within their borders, if that's what the people of that state want to do. The House also cleared a bill to retroactively pay the federal employees that have been furloughed. Now, on this, I don't have a problem with that in general because we're honoring a contract we made with that employee, that person. The work contract states that this person gets a certain amount of money per year. And we have to honor that contract, whether we have them working or not. That's the agreement. But what I do find troubling is a lot of these people are being deemed non-essential. Non-essential, meaning having little or no importance. Not essential, not necessary. So apparently, according to the press releases, we have around 800,000 employees that are deemed not necessary to complete the job at hand. Do I even need to comment further on that? The House also passed a bill funding the National Institutes of Health. Also, not in the Constitution. I know there's sick children out there. That's the argument being made, but I'm sorry, it isn't in the Constitution. Now you may say, Patrick, you're being cold-hearted. No, I'm being a realist. I'm going by the rules relayed out for our government. If we want to change those rules, there's a way to do it. It's called amending the Constitution. If we want to take money from one citizen to pay the bills of another, then put it to a vote on an amendment. If we want to have National Institutes of Health, put it to a vote and amend the Constitution. But see, we never do that because this stuff wouldn't pass. Instead, we break the rules we're supposed to be obeying and do these things anyway. Then people are surprised when the government breaks the rules and starts spying on American citizens without warrants. You can't let the government break the rules in one part of the Constitution and not expect it not to break them in another. You can't say, I don't want Obamacare telling me I have to buy insurance. The Republicans need to stay strong and fight against that. But then allow the government to demand a part of your hard-earned money just to hand it to another citizen in the form of charity. Both actions are not allowed by the Constitution. Yet you scream and yell about one while not protesting the other. This is why the Republicans sit up there in Washington telling you they're fighting for the American people. But then they vote on bills that are decidedly un-American. Look, see, we're fighting Obamacare for you. We're fighting against the government making you spend your money on something you don't want. Well, what about making me spend my money on people who don't want to pay their own bills in life? I don't want the government making me do that, yet you're passing bills demanding that I do. As I said, this is all about shoring up their respective bases. This is why you won't hear these points being made on any other program. I don't have a political party I'm trying to impress. I'm not carrying the water for one side or the other. I'm fighting for the American people, the citizens of this great country. This is why this radio show is the rarity. I'm not afraid of telling either side they're wrong, liberal or conservative, that they're screwing us, the American people. That's why I made this statement a couple of weeks ago. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. This is getting to the point where it's the government against the people. Both sides say they're working for us, but like anything, look past their rhetoric and observe their actions. That's where you find out their true objectives and their true beliefs. What's also telling is how the Senate Democrats have said they don't want to accept little bills funding parts of the government without funding all of it, namely Obamacare. But that's really how it should work every time. By passing these huge budgets, that's how all this wasteful spending gets sneaked into legislation. These people in Congress can't read through all these huge spending bills. They're much too long. Most of the watchdog groups can't either. And that's how Congress wants it. That's business as usual for them. By passing smaller funding bills, funding smaller areas of government, it's much easier to trim out the waste and watch for people abusing the system. It's exactly what Washington doesn't want. I mean, would you sign a contract that you hadn't read all the way through or at least skimmed over? If you bought a cell phone and the contract was 30 pages long, would you sign it? Or would you go to another carrier? You don't know what's in those 30 pages, and furthermore, you don't feel like sitting down and reading all of it to find out. That's why cell phone companies don't have 30-page contracts. They know people wouldn't stand for it, and they'd buy from their competition. But we don't have any competition in government. It's take it or take it. There's no leave it. It's government. passing all this spending in smaller targeted bills is a good thing. It's something we should be doing every year instead of piling all of it into huge bills that no one has any time to wade through. This is what we need to be pushing our congressional representatives to do. Sure, they need to oppose Obamacare, but they also need to oppose any other non-constitutional legislation that comes down the road as well. All right, we're up on the half-hour break already here on the Patrick Riggins Show. After the break, we'll hit on a few more things I've noticed this week during all the government shutdown hoopla. Plus, we'll read a column or two about things you might have forgotten about during all the commotion. That's all when we come back here on the Patrick Riggins Show on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
I got myself undressed. I ain't ready for the altar.